and of course their enormous tusks can give each other a very serious injury. Of course, if the dominant male wins, he maintains his his right to mate with females, but also who maintains the territory. And of course, as I mentioned about hippos being herbivores and spending a large part of their lives in the water, because while they do feed on plants, they are quite dangerous. But also, people think that they swim, but actually they don't swim. They run along the bottom. And yeah, while hippos are herbivores, they are considered the most dangerous animals in Africa. They are also quite unpredictable. This is their range. And the next animal I'm going to show you is probably the one that has the worst reputation in Africa. It is spotted hyena. Now, spotted hyenas are predators that are found in Africa, and of course they have a reputation, rather filthy reputation, as bone-crushing scavengers, when that's actually very unfair and also quite untrue, because they are also intelligent, muscular pack predators that can weigh as much as an adult human. And because they live in clans, and in many animals, the females are the dominant, or the males are the dominant ones, but in hyenas, it's the ladies that rule the roost. So if you're a male, forget it, you're at the bottom of the line. But of course, hyenas, while their primary food source is carrion, dead meat, they can be hunters. In fact, they have massive hearts and lungs, so they have fairly good stamina, and they can take on prey from antelope and even to things as big as wildebeest. They can consume a third of their body weight in one go. But also, what's famous about them is that they are quite often known for chasing other predators away from their food, like cheetahs, leopards, and even incredibly, using strength in numbers, they can drive lions away from their prey. And of course, another thing that's incredible about hyenas is the whole physique. They have very large front legs with enormous paws, and of course strong muscles at the back and around the neck. So once they've made a kill, they will get their teeth stuck into it and brace back on straight legs with their huge paws and just shake their head from side to side to tear out chunks of meat. And they have probably the most powerful bite of any mammal, and their bite force can be just over 1,000 pounds per square inch. And if you want to put that in perspective, they could probably crush my arm to pulp with a single bite. They can bite through bone as easily as me munching through a bag of crisps on a weekend, which is a sight to see, I'll tell you. But anyway, hyenas eat everything on a carcass: the flesh, the bone, the hair, horns, hooves, and even teeth. They can digest all of it. And of course, also, for many people in Africa, the spotted hyena is seen as a source of fear, but actually there's a place in Ethiopia called Harar Town where for generations the hyenas have been fed at night. So they're actually encouraged into the city. Generations ago, the people of Harar Town fed the hyena, hoping in return the hyenas would rid the town of evil spirits. And this tradition still continues tonight. But there's one man there who feeds the hyenas called Yusuf, And he's been feeding the hyenas there for over 20 years, and his family many generations before that. And when you feed them with him, you'll be sat just outside his house, and the walls of the city will be about maybe 15 or 20 metres behind you. And incredibly, when he wants to call the hyenas in, all he has to do is whistle. And of course, I know a lot of you are probably thinking that spotted hyenas look like mangy dogs, but actually, hyenas are in their own group and are not closely related to dogs at all. In fact, hyenas are actually more closely related to cats, believe it or not. And of course, here is their range. They're found in many grasslands of Africa, but of course they tend to not be around the Congo, but of course around here in Ethiopia, in East Africa, is where they've been filmed, where they've been fed for generations. Now, the next animal is probably one that will make a lot of you who will jump out of your skin. It is the African rock python. Now, the African rock python is the largest snake found in Africa. A fully grown female can be about 6 metres in length. And of course, they don't use venom to kill their prey. Instead, what they do is they rely on constriction, meaning they will lunge at their prey out of water and grab onto it with their fiercely sharp teeth and then wrap coils of their body around their prey like an antelope, and then they will squeeze the life out of it. And of course, every time their prey breathes out, the snake clenches just a little bit more, and every time the prey breathes out, it clenches more and more and more and more and more until eventually there is no lung space left and their prey suffocates. Of course, pythons will then swallow their prey whole in one mouthful because snakes are unable to chew their food. And of course, how they do it is actually a little bit grotesque. I mean, they will basically dislocate the whole jaw and walk it across their dinner, and once, if they've eaten something as big as an antelope, they may not have to eat again for a whole year. And of course, to many people, snakes are a source of fear. And that's mainly down to like Indiana Jones, because Indiana Jones' biggest fear is snakes. But I like snakes. I mean, I grew up with snakes. Of course, I've actually handled snakes before. I've even held a rock python, and of course, as long as the snake has been kept in captivity for many years and is fairly tame, it's very unlikely to try and strangle you. But of course, one thing that always amazes me about pythons is their senses. I mean, they have a very good sense of smell and taste, mainly using their forked tongue, but also they have some very sensitive scales running along the upper lip that can pick up heat from their prey. Because many snakes can see the moving muscles of their prey. And of course, as you can see, they can be handled. I mean, of course, if you ever do handle a wild African rock python, it's always wise to get right behind the head, because once you have control of the head, you have control of the snake. And it takes a very firm grip to restrain a rock python, but these animals are strong enough to constrict crocodiles to death, so it won't hurt the snake even a little. Of course, that is their range. Well, much of their range. Now, I'm going to show you the second largest land animals in Africa, but also the most threatened by poachers. The white and black rhinos. Now, rhinos are found throughout Africa and Asia, and they come in all different shapes and sizes, but these ones in Africa are the black and white rhino. How you tell them apart is, because how they got the name is actually was a mistranslation by the Europeans. My mum told me that, but how you tell them apart is you look at the mouth. On a white rhino, it has a flat mouth because it's a grazer, it feeds on grass. But a black rhino has a beak-shaped mouth because it's a browser, so it feeds on low shrubs and trees. In fact, a black rhino can actually snap off a branch as thick around as my arm. But also the white rhino is the largest African rhino and also the most sociable of the rhinoceros. And of course their eyesight is poor, but they have a very good sense of smell and hearing. And when defending territories, males battle with each other. And of course if they're surprised or feel threatened, they will charge at anything from lions to hyenas, leopards, and even people. Of course, unfortunately, every species of rhino that's found throughout Africa and Asia is in enormous trouble, and that's all down to us. Well, it's all down to these, their horns. Now, rhino horn is not made of bone or ivory like elephant tusk. It's actually made of a substance called keratin, the same substance that our fingernails and our hair are made of. But the Chinese have this stupid idea that it has medicinal purposes, when there is absolutely no scientific proof that it works. I mean, as my mum rightly pointed out, if keratin had medicinal purposes, you just chew on your fingernails. But of course, rhino horn is also used for Arabian dagger hilts, like elephant tusks, but also it's sold in Vietnam and Taiwan as trinkets and ornaments, and even ground up and served in drinks. But rhino horn can actually fetch about 60,000 US dollars per kilo, and because of that these animals are being absolutely slaughtered by poachers who run them down with AK-47 with helicopters, shoot them with AK-47 machine guns, and hack off their horns with chainsaws. And it's not just the adults that are affected, because quite often young rhinos, when their mothers are killed, they're just left to die because their horns haven't grown in yet and they're just left to die. And a young rhino alone out on the savannah would be an easy meal for lions, hyenas and wild dogs. And of course we've already driven one species of rhino to extinction, which is northern white rhino, because the only two that are left are female, and of course they can't reproduce with each other, so the northern white rhino has been classed as extinct because the last two left are female. But there are people working to do something about this. I mean, in the 1960s, the populations of southern white rhinos dropped to as few as 30 animals, but what followed was one of the biggest wildlife success stories in conservation. And now there are about 2,000 southern white rhinos in Africa. But as I mentioned before, there are people working to do this, to protect them with armed patrols monitoring them, and anti-poaching squads. Well, that is quite dangerous because poachers are heavily armed, well organised, and will kill rangers. They are the wildlife, the rangers and the anti-poaching squads, to me, are the heroes of the wildlife world. But of course, here is the range of the white rhino and the black rhino in Africa. And now I'm going to show you